Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Flow. I'm Kevin Lowers.
I'm Ben Knapp.
And today we are joined by the great and powerful Dan Allison. What's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? How are we doing today?
Awesome. I'm great.
I'm doing awesome, man. Couldn't be better. It's Wednesday.
You guys sipping on over there?
Scissor.
Is this some of that? Did you make some Death Wish coffee?
Some Death Wish coffee.
Oh, no wonder why I'm tweaking.
We got the Starbucks with a shot of espresso and a little heavy whipping cream over here.
I've got
ready to go.
Essential greens. I've got dark roast coffee. And I've got icebreaker mints.
I think that makes for a very conscious mind.
Oh my goodness! Did you just leave us? Did you just
drop
leave us
it right?
Did you just drop it?
Yeah, I got a Yeti full of water.
At least it's cold.
It is. It's great. It's amazing how long these things hold heat and cold.
I actually don't like it because I could put it if I'm driving in. I want to have that coffee done by the time I get here. It's about a 20-minute drive. Yeah, you can't touch it. It's like it gets hotter.
Yeah.
So no, it's not for me. I think it just continues.
So that said, today, guys, our episode is brought to you by Conscious Coffee. And Coach Ben, you want to lead us into our topic today?
I think we can. We're going to try to break down and identify with. I'm always looking for myself in our talks. I'm always looking for ways of improving how I think and how I construct thought around certain topics. So I just wanted to get you guys together and talk about basically consciousness. What is it? It's a cool word. I've seen it on a bumper sticker recently. So, but I don't. I'm not really sure 100%. Like, what is it? What does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to I guess kind of like be aware? Maybe that's one of the answers. What do you?
That was you just literally said what I was going to say. I always think of the word awareness when I think of consciousness, and I think you could plug that into anything, just having general awareness about whatever it is that you're doing.
And what are we aware of?
The self, like the person that you are, and then obviously stemming that into your interactions with people around you, and then building off of that. Again, I think a lot of what we'll talk about today, because we're all coaches, is how consciousness fills the room when we're coaching. I think Dan will have some good points on that if you want to kind of talk to that point.
Well, I know, as far as the awareness of, obviously internal awareness, so it's an interpersonal relationship with, like, who am I? How do I feel? Where am I? Is it cold in the room? That's a conscious moment to be able to identify whether you're comfortable or uncomfortable. But isn't there a certain level of consciousness also in the external, like our, consciousness of existence, consciousness of thoughts, consciousness of how you're being received potentially by other people. So, and also how it affects and being aware of like our external world as well. Is that
100%? I think your internal consciousness influences the external. The way you hold yourself, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you move. There's levels to it.
So to consider it is a form of consciousness.
100%. Okay. I think you can pull away from you could identify with like not being conscious, just like the complete when you meet somebody or do something with complete lack of awareness, where you're just like, that person's not thinking.
That person that's on their cell phone while you're talking.
Yeah, it's just exhausting.
Good one.
Yeah, 100%. Where they're not present. I think consciousness is found in when you kind of feel that present moment. It's very easy to identify with consciousness, but again, it is one of those kind of those wacky words that has like so many meanings and so many different definitions around it. So it'll be a fun one to extrapolate today.
So what does okay, let's say, because you can't always be something. You can't always be, conscious. You can't always be a jerk either. Everybody has moments of brightness, and I have moments of weakness, and I have moments of anxiety. So, like if I'm anxious about the what if scenario, I assume that's a moment where I'm lacking consciousness. I'm either in my thinking of something that I've related to something that's happened in the past, or I'm trying to anticipate a future that hasn't even occurred yet. So that would be a moment of lacking consciousness.
You could still be conscious in that moment, though. I mean, trying to identify future fears can be very productive if you take it in a positive light, because they're variables. I mean, even the worst things. I mean, when you identify with something that happened in the past and then you try to think about it happening in the future, it can kind of make you a little more responsive to the moment to not let it happen, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
It can be good and bad and indifferent, and with it being the state or quality of awareness or being aware of an external object or something within oneself. Also, the awareness or perception of something by a person, perception being the organization, identification, and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand the presented information or the environment. So all of that is being aware, whether it's anxiety, whether it's excitement, whether it's something good or bad.
Okay, I'm going to monkey wrench it. I'm going to monkey wrench it right now, and I'm going to let you guys know. Okay, I try not to talk to the audience, but this guy just quoted that. Okay, there was no fucking 3x5 card here. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll say go. So this will be my challenge, but again, it's a challenge for me to try to learn something. Okay, so if anxiety is considering the future the same way that guilt is considering the past, if I'm having an anxious moment considering my future, remember, that means it's coming from something like that's already, like I've already been taught, right? So, it's like if you're a Republican, which I don't even know what that means, chances are my dad was a Republican. And so I just keep beating that same drum until I'm older. So to me, people that kind of shout off crap like that, I think they're unconscious because it's like they're quoting somebody else. It's like they're just regurgitating shit that they've already heard and already said in their life and don't even really know if they even know what they're saying, right?
Are those people anxious, though? You know what I mean? I think there's definitely a mild sense of delusion in that light where you're just so closed-minded and you're not even willing to open up. And I think that is definitely a form of being unconscious when you don't even accept any new ideas. And I think everyone can identify with that person where when you're speaking to them, and even though you just want it to be fun, I'll have these conversations about things that I don't agree with, but it's fun.
I love cracking those eggs.
Yeah, and then you see them, and you can literally see in their face that they're not listening. They're just waiting to just word vomit out their argument to your point. And I don't think those people are conscious. I think that's a form of unconscious. But I think anxiety, it can be very conscious because anxiety is provoked through fear a lot of the time. And fear can come through lack of doing something. So if you feel anxious because you're putting things off, it can be an indicator and it can drive consciousness towards the fact that you need to get your shit together, the kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How does it relate then to the power of now? Okay, because everybody, it's like I love that book, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. It really started my transformation before I even realized I was trying to transform. But that's what it said is look, if you're thinking about something else, again, whether it's future or past, he's like, you might just miss your moment. So always come back to the now. Always come back to the now. So I think it's a worthwhile discussion. Even if it's a wonderful vision, even if it's a grandiose vision of just endless supply of everything, and everybody in the world is happy, and everybody's fed, and there's no disease. I just wonder if the futuristic model can still be conscious, but that's
let me ask you this: is there levels? Is being able to Zen monk yourself into the present moment 24 hours a day the highest level of consciousness? Is there? Because show me the guy that can stay present all day, and I'll show you a liar. Right. You know what I mean? Right. It doesn't exist. But we can all strive to be that way more and more. And I think maybe that increases your level of awareness or increases your level of consciousness. When you can start driving awareness back to the fact that nothing really matters except right here, right now. I think then maybe there's states of it. We talk about a lot of different levels and states and a lot of different things. And maybe it's no different. Yeah. But a part of that, evolving has to be identifying why you're anxious. And I think there has to be a level of consciousness to do so.
Yeah, the different
I'm just thinking of this as we speak.
That's
so
cool.
That's
cool. All right, I want to. These are really good. I mean, this is going to lead really, really well into, again, it's like, I love using the Inflow Wellness Academy as how we kind of correlate some of these topics because, it's like, we grind, we battle, I don't know if you guys ever take a day off of thinking about our schedules, our clients, our program design, our what's next, our what are we going to, it's like, I don't ever I don't know how to take a day off.
100% of the time.
100% of the time.
That's the hardest thing about being present is the fact that we're trying to build a business and it takes all your thoughts all day sometimes.
So I want to talk about that and find out if we're conscious, like when we coach, and that's why we definitely have our head of training with us. I want to also ask you guys, like, what is it to be not conscious? What is it? So I want to be able to create that duality about if we kind of have an idea or framework of what is, like what isn't. And I have see if can we come up with a couple of like single words. You guys got an
Absolutely.
opinion?
Well, let's start with the what is like to be unconscious. We've got some good information that's influenced from Brett Bartholomew and his conscious coaching book, and also our experiences on the floor. So what it's not is pretty plain and simple. Being on your phone, not paying attention, not making eye contact, not trying to be aware of others around you, not trying to be aware of your environment, your atmosphere, and really just kind of like worrying about things within yourself that haven't happened yet or maybe happened in the past, rather than obviously focusing on the present.
Now, are they doing that on purpose, or are they doing it unconsciously? They have no idea.
I think you could say going through the motions could be a form of being unconscious.
Because if you do it on purpose, that makes you a sociopath, doesn't it? Like where you just don't, what you're doing and you don't give a crap on how it affects anybody.
Absolutely, that just or
an idiot.
It just makes you a bad employee, someone who doesn't care, someone's not really putting effort into what they're doing.
So do the majority of people have consciousness or lack consciousness?
Well, I think with what we do, as coaches, when we're trying to improve somebody's health, like the stakes are relatively high, and I think we've all gone through a pretty extensive level of education to like get to where we're at to do that. But the outcome is somebody's life and health, so I think the stakes are a little bit higher. So typically I would say it's a little easier to drive awareness, but like when you're like a machinist who's just like punching a button every 5 minutes for 8 hours, like now I think it's a little harder to have that awareness in the workplace, and I think going through the motions becomes more likely. I know I worked a job like that, and like I wouldn't even remember my days because I would just literally be in a daze. But like when I'm coaching and training, like it's very easy to draw back to the moment. But then again, to your point, I would imagine there's people out there that still just go through the motions doing that, even though they have somebody's life in their hands, and like you could injure somebody really, really bad if you don't coach them up correctly. So I don't think that's something you can always come back to is, what do you do and what is like the level of let me peel that back a little bit. Like how important is it that you're focused on this job right now? Because we've all worked jobs that the outcomes aren't that important.
So within what we do, being customer service based, I think you can kind of judge how conscious we're being by people getting results because they're engaged in what they're doing, because they understand fully what they're doing. Okay. They understand that someone cares. And then also us being a private sector training business, our retention rate's high. Are people coming back? So, if people are not training, they're not getting results, well, probably a good indicator that, that staff or that coach is not being conscious, is doing things that are not engaging with the customer.
I heard, I read, I think about that because I used to be a CNC machinist, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't stamp parts, but I know I still did it without the majority of my brain. I think when we went through, the 2008, 2009, the economic depression a little bit, where Ford and everybody was begging for money from the government. They said that people from, I think it was GM, they actually traveled and they went to like the Nissan plants. It might have been Nissan and Toyota, where they had a completely different system there. So our system was based on production. So in other words, it's how many cars can we produce in a 24-hour period. And part of the employment aspect of it, and what they were making them aware of, is if the line doesn't run, we don't make money. So it was built into every single employee. if this line stops, everybody could tell you exactly how much money was being lost per second, right? And so, when you think of when production is the number one priority, I might identify that as an unconscious environment, because so what they did was they went over and studied Nissan and Toyota, where every single employee, rather than being warned of how much money is lost if the line ever stopped, they would describe how it was so important for every single person on the line to have the courage and the autonomy to shut the line down at any point that they did not think that they were producing of the highest quality. And it was very, very hard for people to learn how to kind of pull that cord a little bit. Well, what they would do is let's say a bolt gets loose in like a door panel or whatever, and that car is going down the line. You can hear that fucking thing rattling around. And so what they did was they correlated the negative aspect of people like returning brand new cars after like 3 months because like the door was rattling or the handle was getting loose. So they ended up studying the production lines in Asian countries where they made it so important. Like if there's something is going wrong, if you strip a rivet or something like that, pull the cord. Because they didn't want the cars coming back in 3 months with that rattling door handle. And so I guess they've been using that now in our production. So, they're producing a better quality car, and each individual feels like they're now like responsible.
Got to empower the individual.
Yeah, so it really did. As nerve-wracking as it was, imagine being the first guy to pull the fucking cord.
Yeah, and there's that sense of when I was working in a factory, there's just this sense of I'm incredibly unimportant. You know what I mean? For the job I did, and I made the company a lot of money, and my fuck-ups lost the company a lot of money, but it was never exercised too much. I just kind of saw myself as basically a robot. I had a quota every week, and I built actually drive-through screens that you see at Taco Bell's. I actually assembled those, and I would have to get a certain amount out, and it was just, like you said, I would just blindly do this stuff and just not have any level of awareness. And again, I think I wonder now if I went back there, if I would maybe challenge myself to still stay aware of everything and focus on the job at hand and be there, present, do the best damn job I could. Because when I was 18, I sure as shit didn't. I can tell you that much.
Well, I talk about how hard, essentially what we're doing right now, psychoanalysis to me is the same thing as being conscious on how freaking hard that can be. When you're kind of evaluating your day each and every day, how did I do today? Did I bring my best effort? It's tough to do, man. So being unconscious is kind of blissful. It's kind of
like eating pancakes.
I think it's the nature of a lot of jobs nowadays with factories and just punch the clock type work. There's not a lot of jobs that kind of force you into being conscious. I think if you're a trainer or coach like we are, you're kind of forced into being conscious because people are going to leave otherwise.
Yeah.
You're going to go out of business.
Now, do our clients force consciousness on us, or is that just a hat that we've just chosen to wear?
Well,
maybe it's because sink or swim, though. But if we weren't conscious,
they're going to come in. Most people are going to have not done the exercises we're prescribing for them before, so they need someone to teach them. So step one, there's just some consciousness involved with that, at least to a small degree, and they're going to need to communicate with you, ask you, did I get, how many reps am I doing? How many sets am I doing? How long do I need to rest? Where should I be feeling this? Hey, this kind of hurts. Well, how should I change my form? They need to discuss schedule with you. They need to do all these things. So I think you really are kind of forced into at least a small deal of consciousness, even if you're, trying not to be the most efficient employee that you can be. You're still a little bit of that forced upon you. There's so coaching, I think it kind of falls in the middle between empathy and apathy. So empathy being okay, I feel what you're feeling. Apathy being okay, I don't care what you're feeling, you're thinking. Compassion's kind of somewhere in the middle. So we kind of work a job where we need to listen to everybody and be aware of what they're bringing to the table as far as their feelings, their emotions, their physical state. And we need to know why they're there and where they're trying to go, and kind of work that middle ground of saying, hey, I understand where you're coming from, but we've got some work to do. And, that right there, kind of balancing that scale forces us to be conscious.
Okay, then I'm gonna challenge that now. I'm gonna challenge that. Let's find out how conscious we are on the floor. Because if we're gonna fucking give ourselves the hat, we better find out if we know what the hell we're talking about, right? All right. So let's think of that. We have, obviously there's a big difference between athletes and general population, right? On how we kind of, how we nurture them, and maybe how we get them
to a degree.
Yeah, and how we kind of, I guess maybe it's. I guess that's probably why I specialize in the moms.
Well, you can be a little more of an authoritarian with athletes because they're there for business. Where, a general pop client typically has been run down a little bit more by life a lot of the time.
That's not always the case. Everyone's very different emotionally and personality type, and I'd actually argue that everyone is going to be a very unique animal within themselves.
Well, are you being defensive, Dan?
Yes.
Well, then that would be lacking consciousness.
Do you think globally though? Globally, if you were to take a large group of athletes versus a large group of 45-year-old moms, the dynamic is going to be with athletes, there's going to be a little more just self-inflicted discipline because they're trying to improve. They know
a little bit more. But you'd be surprised. It's not always the case. A lot of times there's athletes that need their hand held and this and that.
So do you think that athlete's ever going to really make it to that next level if they don't really have that self-sufficiency?
Perhaps.
You think so? I was just curious.
Well, that's why, because I got that on my, what are some of the things of being not conscious? And it was interesting because I was looking at it and I'm like, because sometimes I know you guys feel the same way. Sometimes clients are very frustrating. Sometimes they didn't quote bring it today, and they kind of got to be coaxed into, when we give them a specific rest interval and they're still trying to dilly dally. So my ask is, one of the things I've got on my list of being not conscious is being defensive. So if we, so do you ever find yourself being defensive?
Absolutely. I think we all can find ourselves there. Yeah. I'm sure.
That's kind of easy.
Now, back to your point on a client not wanting to do things, can you ask yourself, were you being as in tune as you could possibly be with their emotions, what they've got going on? Are you taking note that maybe the energy in the room sucks, the music's not up, everyone's kind of mopey? Well, maybe you look at that and you see, okay, they're not pushing themselves. Well, take a look back in the mirror.
Yeah,
at times.
Did we not create the environment? So it's interesting. I think the bullet points are. I think they can be they can glare because I can definitely. I know for a fact I've been defensive. I know for a fact based on some people's attitudes or their unwillingness to not check their phone during a session or something like that. Maybe I do get defensive, and I'm unfortunately that means for that exact moment, maybe I wasn't very conscious.
I feel like there's a level of things that you got to stand behind, though. I mean, to do the job that you're trying to accomplish, if you're constantly catering to exactly what they want, then that could never get them anywhere. Some of these people do need that extra push. Some of these people do need to be told how they need to do certain
That's
things.
finding that balance between empathy and apathy.
Yeah.
Is obviously they're there for what they want, blah blah blah, but you have to give them what they need. So it's like you said, you can't always give them what they want, but you're trying to work towards what they need the best, and sometimes it's drawing some hard lines, sometimes it's giving them a pat on the back and holding their hand.
Do we need, I mean, obviously we're really focused on clients, but again, I started saying a little bit earlier, my life is this business and this business is my life, so there's no way that I try to act in here that I don't try to act outside of here. So to me, this is kind of a life talk, but it's cool how we can correlate it to our business and our responsibility with people. So what would what about micromanaging in coaching? How no matter the athlete, because again, a lot, when you talk about athlete, they have a God's gift. They have a God's gift of athleticism. We're not taking people necessarily from D2 to D1, I don't think, are we? I mean, so how much micromanaging do we need to do on all these little things, these little quirks, these personality traits, their, quote, readiness for the day? I mean, can we micromanage too much?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Micromanaging can be, can kind of be the enemy. So we want to communicate properly. We want to be brief. We don't want to speak to them like they're a physical therapist or another strength coach. We want to speak to them in words that they understand, whether they're at a 3rd grade reading level or a 10th grade reading level. And, we want to make them feel comfortable pushing themselves towards, their goal or their, direction in which they need to go. Well, then is micromanaging ever a good thing?
'Cause again, a lot, when we talk about athlete, they have a God's gift. They have a God's gift of athleticism. We're not taking people necessarily from D2 to D1, I don't think, are we? I mean, so how much micromanaging do we need to do on all these little things, these little quirks, this personality traits, their, quote, readiness for the day? I mean, so how much micromanaging ever a good thing?
In some cases, if you're really trying to help them build a habit, but just kind of like riding a bike at some point in time, as the dad having their kid learn to ride a bike with the training wheels, at some point you've got to take your hand off their back when they're riding with the training wheels, and then at some point you've got to take the training wheels off for them to ride the bike so they can have that habit and that skill to take down the road. So
I'm wondering, like, I guess I'm asking, if I micromanage, am I actually looking for faults? Like, am I trying to find something wrong by micromanaging? That's another way that I was thinking.
More than likely.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if micromanaging. I think I asked myself that. Like, if I'm micromanaging, I feel like I'm looking for something wrong.
I think it's kind of a compensation. It's a compensation if you find yourself micromanaging, or maybe you go back and evaluate, or have another coach evaluate your coaching skills. We'll use the coaching scenario. You're probably compensating for a lack of confidence in your own skill set. So you probably need to start going to more clinics. You need to do some more studying on whatever area maybe you're overthinking things, because you shouldn't have to micromanage if you can see the big picture, if you can see the movement, if you can take in their attitude, take in their feelings, things of that nature. You shouldn't need to go looking for things. You should be seeing them.
Yeah, it almost seems like the small things are inconsequential, right?
And it can just lead to like complete overstimulation. Obviously, like if you give them too many things to think about, you're just going to overbear their brain. So it can have a really negative repercussion. So you kind of, like to your point, Dan, you really want to keep it like as simple as possible to try to get as close to the outcome as you want. And then, if they're not 100% proficient today, then you just add another little piece, tomorrow or next week.
Like the lasagna has like 20 things in it, but you only put one thing in the lasagna at a time for it to cook right.
And it's like, I don't taste all the 20 little things. I only taste that meat sauce, baby, and that white flour. You ever had eggplant lasagna?
No, man.
No, cooked eggplant like tastes like mushroom. So if you tell me I'm eating eggplant, I won't eat it. So Renee made a vegetarian lasagna.
You even knowing.
And I'm into my second piece. And she's like, how is it? And I'm like, I don't know where you got these mushrooms, man. This is awesome. Because I love mushrooms. And she goes, that's eggplant. I didn't eat another bite. I didn't eat it. I was sick. I was nauseous.
It's like that jackfruit that you can make like jackfruit pulled.
Yeah, and it's disgusting to look at.
Pulled jackfruit, but it tastes great. Yeah. Like we had a crazy vegan lady come into our massage school to teach nutrition, which was possibly the most entertaining thing in it. And we could do a whole podcast about it because it was awesome. And she ended up making a bunch of meals for us, and they were delicious. But she was 64. She had been a vegan for only 2 years, but was acting like it was the end all be all. She kept calling it after I was enlightened, she called her veganism her enlightenment.
She was enlightened. She referred to herself as
enlightened?
enlightened?
Like she said, once she stopped eating meat, she became enlightened. It was. But again, I digress. But she made all these crazy meals, and the first thing I said to her, I was like, do you know most people have jobs? They can't be making 6-course vegan meals every night. It's not.
Then you didn't want to be a vegan.
Yeah.
So then she would be considered a bully who was focused on the small things. She was micromanaging all the things that were inconsequential. Yeah. And she's not enlightened. Yeah. She's not conscious. I hope she's listening to this.
It was the best thing ever. I mean, it was hysterical the way, all she referenced was the China study, which has been so phallus. There's so many fallacies in that China study. But again, I digress.
I think I micromanage, guys. I think maybe, because Coach Dan, this guy could train. You throw a piece of red meat in the room, throw 50 people in there, and he'll train the fuck
Put some sea salt on it. Absolutely.
Yeah, put some sea salt on it. But see, and so that I wonder if I overcompensate, my little micromanaging. Sometimes I wonder about that. Is it inconsequential that her foot externally rotated 5 degrees? It's it's cool that I picked up on it. It means I guess I was in the moment.
Well, it's one of those things. Is there pain at the second it happens, and can it wait? Can it wait for after the set? A lot of times that's the micromanaging. It's okay, guys, we don't need to hop on that particular thing right away. There's a time and a place to communicate.
Yeah, I think if you have another strength coach and say myself, and we're going through some heavy deadlifts and Dan's coaching me up, that might be a good spot to actually kind of micromanage me because I have the capacity to like take maybe 7 cues at once because I have a pretty, deep understanding.
Well, especially if we ask you.
And also know, how much.
Bro, just ask me. I'll tell you how great I am.
My neuroplasticity is just full-fledged. Like,
and just kind of also figuring out like how much input can that one person take. So back to what Ben asked me earlier about, micromanage. Can we micromanage, and when's the right time to micromanage? Well, maybe you got somebody new who is, very receptive to the subject you're going over, whether it be deadlifting or, some sort of mobility drill or something, and you can tell them 5 things at once and they don't become overwhelmed. That actually gets them to a good place. Maybe that's a time and a place for that. Someone else who maybe you see them kind of fuddling around after giving them one thing to think about. Well, you may not want to, flood that person with any more information until they've gotten that down. So again, it's highly individual.
Context.
Yeah, I feel like when I micromanage, I almost feel like I'm a bully. Like, because I get to just say all this stuff, and then people have to take it.
Well, I think we can kind of, you got to sit there and ask yourself afterward, like, how much of that actually made a difference? If it did, great. If it didn't, then cut what you said, in 2/3, and and try again.
So I was going to ask you, this interruption is brought to you by Icebreakers.
I'm trying to get one out. And
I asked you for a mint before we started.
I know. I was drinking coffee. Now I got coffee breath, man. I don't want to be.
It's okay. I'm smelling my own.
Can you guys hear?
Right. Exactly. I wouldn't be able to get past my own. Yeah. I guess I think about that. I'm like micromanaging. It almost feels like I'm. I love that we're getting more conscious. Again, this is a great talk, guys. This, to me, to be conscious, it's like what's the scale? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Like, I think I want to just be more focused on the internal. I think if, again, I want to reward the fact that people got in their car, even if they showed up 15 minutes late, but they got in their car, they came up, and they walked into the gym, they put their bag in the locker room, and they're on the floor ready to go. Like, that's a big deal. Like, that, I think, so that's something I got to reward. I want to think about, even if their foot wasn't in the best position, like they did still pick up the weight 10 times and they still are gassed at the end of the set.
Or maybe their foot needed to be in that position from the get-go.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because I was just thinking about this. Do you think, parenting a child has led you to becoming more like of a micromanager, just because by nature when you're raising a kid, like there has to be a sense of micromanagement. Otherwise, like your kid's just gonna like shit himself and never eat and never go to sleep and eat sugar and drink. You know what I mean? Like and never do anything productive. So
I still wonder. I think you're yes, of course it is.
Like is there remnants? Because I know like when it comes to micromanaging, I definitely do it sometimes without knowing. I'm still growing as a coach tremendously. I mean, over the last year working with you guys, I've learned more than I ever have through my first 4 or 5 years of coaching, So I've got a lot to learn. Watching Coach Dan on the floor and his external cues, it's very effective versus those internal cues for people that don't really understand the terminology. But I'm even, I was just kind of thinking to myself, about how I go about my days with my kid, and there's no choice but to micromanage at certain points.
Well, let me ask you, though, as a young dad, though, is it working, though? Is micromanaging our child? I mean, I could sit down.
Levels, though. There's levels to it. You know what I mean?
I could take the knee and tell Sophia 50 things about life and about how and I'm like, but is she?
No.
Maybe I am micromanaging too much as a dad. Maybe, maybe it is. Maybe I need to be more conscious in my fatherly preparation. I feel like sometimes I'm a bully. Like I said, I think I bully my daughter. Like even though I know I'm doing it for the good, I think I'm doing it for the good. Like what?
Well, I mean, levels, as in like a low level of micromanagement for a child is would be a very high level of micromanagement for an adult. Even if I don't micromanage my kid too much, I try actively to not be a micromanager. There's still a level that you have to do with a kid because they're a kid. They don't have any. They're conscious, but they're not really aware of anything yet. He doesn't understand that he can't live unless he goes to sleep at night and sleeps 10 hours. He doesn't understand that he can't live off of Fruity Pebbles and apple juice.
Okay, then I'm going to ask Coach Dan. Okay, so I tell my daughter 52 things where all I needed to tell her is brush your teeth, comb your hair, go to bed. But instead I need to explain to her why the cosmos want her to sleep. So, I'm I think maybe I probably, again, like you said, Coach Dan can say 3 words and tell the entire program.
Well, it's how much can the individual actually intake and process?
Yeah. I think
You
I
know?
need to treat Sophia like I'm trying to do a better job of teaching clients. Is like, say less, get more, and realize that they're going to learn at whatever rate of speed they're capable of.
I have found though with my son, like constant reiteration on points and like really driving things home. Like like with a 4-year-old, typically like the first time through he doesn't get it, but like after weeks of hearing the same thing, like it eventually clicks. And I wonder like, would it have clicked if I only said it once and never said it again, or like would it have been gone? And like, was it the fact that I kept saying it why he eventually grasped it? You know what I mean? So like again, it's all context. It's like it's so hard to know because we don't live in a petri dish and there's so many variables playing at any given moment at any given time.
Okay, Coach Dan, when you coach, even though there's things going on in our personal lives and everything like that, can you be preoccupied with anything that's going on in your personal life and still have a great coach session?
You can. That's kind of a learned skill. It's part of developing your professional skill set as a coach. You have to, when you step on that gym floor or the field or whatever it is where you're coaching individuals, you're allowed to be a human, but you need to keep it off the floor. You need to present emotional stability for your people. So it's okay to feel depressed or feel down or feel excited, this or that. But you need to kind of bring an even keel every day. So whatever that's going to be, you don't want that to fluctuate too much. So if you're someone who's generally kind of depressed and down, maybe you're bringing it up a little bit. It's going to kind of be just kind of monotone, even keel. If you're someone who's super excited all the time, maybe you bring that down a little bit, but you need to be that same person every day. So those people that are coming to you to help manage their emotions, their physical well-being, they can expect the same thing, every time.
I like that.
There's also a concept of being the thermostat. A lot of coaches talk about this. I first heard about this from Dan John. So as a coach, you're the thermostat. It could also be said for being like captain of a team or a leader of an organization. So sometimes you need to just shut the hell up and let things happen. And sometimes you need to be the energy for your people. So a good example of that might be, hockey season's coming to an end. We get a lot of our hockey players back. Some of them are, getting knocked out of the playoffs and, maybe kind of down in the dumps about that a little bit. So when they're coming in off that, we kind of know that they're not going to be super motivated. They're going to be a little bit beat up, a little bit tired. We need to be a little more energetic and kind of guide them through the process a little bit more. On the other hand, let's say maybe the same hockey player went and won a title, and they come back all fired up. They're excited. They're ready to get after it. Well, you just kind of give them the program and kind of sit back and let them go to work. You don't really need to pump them up or be the leader in those regards. And then obviously you apply that to your general population clients. If you get someone who's just going through a divorce and they're still really chasing body comp goals, well, you're going to kind of know that you're going to need to guide them through it, put an arm around them now and then and be a little more encouraging, a little more often than the person who's just in the zone, driven, everything's going really well in their personal life. They're smashing goals as far as their weight loss. You just kind of set things up for them, clap your hands, and set the timer, and you can kind of sit back a little bit. So the idea of being the thermostat as a coach is really important. But to be able to be the thermostat, you've got to have a degree of emotional stability. So that goes back to handle what you've got to handle outside of the gym, or outside of the floor of the field. And take care of yourself before and after, but just you need to train yourself to kind of, not hide your problems or your issues, this or that, but definitely put them on the shelf because you need to be able to be aware of the people that you're trying to help and the environment that you're creating. If you're down in the dumps and music's low and you're bitching, that's no good. People are going to feed off that and they're going to want to leave. On the other hand, if you got music bumping, you're kind to them, place is a good atmosphere to be, well, they're going to push themselves, so you're going to bring them up a little bit. So that's where becoming we got a lot of definitions here of conscious coaching, whatnot, but that's kind of the essence of it. That's kind of what what we believe in as being a conscious coach is you're the voice of the GPS. You're telling people where to go. Sometimes people need a little more guidance than others. Sometimes they need a voice that's a little more stern. Sometimes they need a voice that's a little more calm and kind. And sometimes they need a little bit of both.
So you guys ever have different temperatures on your thermostat?
Yeah, but I was going to say, I think, like, I can speak to, like, our profession. You know, we're health coaches. And I think I'm a big believer that you should practice what you preach, right? And I think we all are. You shouldn't be, like, doing something different from what you're telling other people to do. I mean, to an extent, obviously, we know there's a lot of variability in, like, diets. Some things work for some people, some things don't. But I think, like, as a coach, like, you should be in a state of emotional stability because you should be eating healthy, you should be exercising, you should be managing your mind, all the things that we try to tell our clients, you know. So I think by nature, if there is a discrepancy in that, like, if you show up every day like depressed and mopey, like, you're not following your own advice, and then that's a huge problem, right?
You ever feel like you have a day where your temperature's off?
100%. They for sure come, but they shouldn't, like, be long lasting.
That's where consciousness comes in, to be aware of it. So you know, if you're not going to be very vocal one particular day, maybe something's really got you down. Maybe you're fighting an illness or something like that. Well, that's the day where you know you've got to bring that atmosphere up elsewhere. So maybe you're putting on the playlist that your clients like. Maybe you're setting up some exercises that don't take as much communication, where you can just kind of let people rip and have some fun. And you kind of make up for it in other ways. What you don't want to do, if your thermostat is off a little bit, if you're the person that's kind of down, you don't want to come in and be venting to clients and asking them for advice and, you know, turning it into a bitch fest. You want to basically do what you've got to do, you know, to bring that up. You know, maybe, you know, and that's where having some clients that are, you know, uplifting type people can be good to help you with. Maybe you kind of pull some energy off of those people who are a little bit higher energy and, you know, and whatnot. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, just be the professional. I mean, like, people are paying us for these hours, you know. So it's like, in my opinion, I just think no matter what's happening in my life, like, I have a responsibility to be this person for these people. Like, they don't need to know. Like, and again, I think there is a level of, like, just fake it, you know.
100%.
You know, just put that in a separate box and just be this other person for a few hours and then come back to your fucking problems later. Like,
100%.
I think that's what it has to be.
You know, Coach Dan said a couple of really good things. You know, some of the things that I believe that, like, mean that you lack consciousness is when you do disregard. You know, or you're unfamiliar with the circumstances in these people's lives. So the fact that you've mentioned, like, you know, some fun you have some fun music playlist. You know what some musical genres that our clients like. You understand where your athletes are in their season, whether they won in the playoffs or whether they're crushed. That's really cool. That's really
maybe you read a Facebook status they put up that suggests that something kind of negative happened in their life. You know, this or that. You kind of learn to read their body language, so you can kind of tell when they're not really liking the conversation that's going on in the room or the music that's on or the way the exercise is going, this or that. You know, being a conscious coach, you pay attention to those things, and you learn to call audibles by seeing those things within other people and within yourself.
Yeah, if only it was as simple as just them coming in and us just training them. But that's, as we all know, that is not.
Yeah, you can be a factory worker and you can be consumed with, you know, my wife being a bitch and my neighbor plays his music too loud.
Well, Kev, I think
you can't do that here.
Kev, I think you alluded to a good point. Like, okay, we could just train them, but that at the end of the day, guys, that is training. Training is knowing all those variables, managing those variables. Training is not just, hey, grab this bar, lift it X amount of times.
That's what I mean by, like, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Like, there's so much psychology built into this profession that it's just, like, it's insane. You know, like, sometimes it's, like, and I know you can, you know, talk on this point too, a lot, Ben. Like, you feel like a therapist a lot of the time. Oh, yeah. And I think you're exceptional, Dan, at just being, like, just kind of, like, say, again, back to, like, the brief responses. And, like, I mean, they're there for an hour, and, like, they're paying you to take care of their physicality. You know what I mean? So it's, like, digress as fast as possible. Let's get back to work.
So I said we'd quote Brett Bartholomew's book, Conscious Coaching, which I think you should all pick up, whether you're a coach or not. It's just a great psychology and communication book. Just a couple quick quotes from that to build on Kevin's point there. So the coaching relationship relies on trust. The coach-client or athlete relationship needs trust with an understanding of how to more effectively communicate with those around you, the outcome is almost always positive in that case. Trust combined with strong communication skills is an alchemy for excellence.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, you have to get to know somebody. I mean, that's why, the first month of a training program, obviously there's a lot of learning what their body can do, but you're also learning all their little idiosyncrasies and knowing what you should say, what you shouldn't say, how much you can get away with saying, when you should obviously peel back. And I think that's a incredibly important role that we have to play as coaches. And again, I think that's where that level of mastery comes in. I think from the outside, our profession could just look like it's oh, you just help people lift weights. Yeah. But it's just
counting sets and reps and taking selfies of your quads in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about we've talked on here about the nature of
these short shorts. This guy's
I know, bro. These quads
they're riding high.
Wait till they get
riding
tan.
high.
Wait till they get
I've
tan.
obviously been focused.
So that femoral artery is staring at me.
Listen, I know.
It's got a heartbeat in it.
What is it called? Transference when when the therapist or trainer comes onto the client. It's there's two different terms for it, but these short shorts probably.
I call that a good day.
Yeah, right. When I walk in with these short shorts and my shirt tucked in, man.
It's called a lawsuit on ESPN.
Right.
Well, I don't want to showcase what can happen, what can come from hard work.
Look.
Why are you squatting? Well, just look.
All right. It's a tough, again, psychoanalyzing, being a good coach is a choice. They say greatness is a choice, okay? You choose whether or not you want to be great at it, because we really don't know that our income would suffer if we were just assholes, even if we were just arrogant.
Because most people don't really know.
Yeah, they don't know the difference.
Yeah, they don't really know.
And that's where, again, we kind of expose ourselves.
Or we'd have an entirely different clientele that would like that.
You're right.
The ones that
You're right.
would leave.
We wouldn't have these people. The law of attraction is very real. Now I like who we are. I like these talks. I like the books that we share. I like the ideas that we share. I like how we don't have bad ideas between us. We build off of each other. We feed each other, and we're there for each other, in down moments. So
we have bad ideas. We just call each other out on it and fix it.
So it doesn't get far.
Definitely.
But the law of attraction's very real. So now at this point, being more comfortable with who I am and who we are as a unit, as a collective today than we were yesterday. If somebody walks in our front door, I assume that they're supposed to be there. There are no coincidences. But I'm going to ask you guys a question. We've talked, we pride ourselves on being good at what we do. So one word, how would you describe being a good coach? And maybe it's a tough question, but, does being a good coach mean to you?
I would come back to awareness.
Aware?
Yeah, that word just fits so many different contexts of success in my life, across the board, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. Awareness and all of those things at least leads me to question. And when I start questioning, I start realizing. And when I realize, I can change. If that makes sense.
So, when you consciously bought those shorts, did you?
Oh, I knew.
Did you sit down with them to see how they would ride?
Oh, if I put a pair of shorts on and they go past my knee, I'm not a fucking chance.
He bought those knowing those shorts are going to be responsible for 50% of his Instagram.
100%.
Now, if we get Coach Jordan Crespi in here, he knows about shorts.
He knows about shorts and he knows about glutes. He's a glute man.
So, Coach, man, what would you, if you had to describe, if it's easy to do?
Absolutely.
A word.
So I can't. There's not one word I can use. I'm going to give you 2 to 4. So definitely consciousness, because we have to be aware of what the hell we're doing, what the hell everybody else is doing. That obviously is paying us for services. But I think the biggest word is adaptability. We need to be able to adapt. If we're being conscious of our own behaviors and our own skill sets, and they need to change for the better, we need to adapt. If we're reading a client or athlete on, maybe something that they're not vibing with, something that's not working well for them, well, we need to adapt, and we need to be able to adapt very quickly. So whether that's emotionally, physically, whatever, logistically, whatever it might be, we need to be very adaptable. We need to be like a chameleon. Where's the Macho Man Randy Savage?
Oh, yeah. You guys want to know my word?
Yeah, I want to know.
Us. Okay, that's what I think about. I think about having a we and us mentality.
I always think about them.
I think us. I'm definitely going to make it about. I'm going to make it about me.
Yeah, right.
Gonna, if they hit a PR, it was about us.
Well, the only reason you hit that PR was because of my exceptional program.
Absolutely. Had I not told you, head up. No, I think self-awareness. I think being self-aware brings out the best around you, right? So that's why I like kind of the us thing, because again, maybe we don't realize it. Maybe because we do this all the time, maybe we don't realize how much we actually do bring out in people. I don't think they don't. Sometimes we get cards and people tell us, you've had a lot of people send you cards and tell you, how much they were, glad for the summer or glad for this or, but they give us a lot of credit, even though we know that they do the work. I like to think that if we're going to be focused on our internal self and being the best version of ourselves, each and every day, that it will affect our external world. So that's why
again, we program the GPS and are the voice on the GPS, but they do the driving.
Yeah, and I think again, like the us is awesome because, like you said earlier, like people that come to our door, we feel like they're meant to be here, and then every little piece that we put, builds out that puzzle, and then we're all in this room trying to, get towards the same goals. And I think that's like the environment and the atmosphere that we've been creating that's been growing, with the Inflow Wellness Academy has just been like, just being a part of it. It's cool, being somebody that can honestly say, like, I look forward to Monday. How many people don't get to say that, that they just can't wait till Friday to get off.
I saw a Facebook thing yesterday where it's kind of funny. It shows a skeleton like crawling down the street and it says, "This is how I feel on Monday." And I'm like, you're right. I'm like, I actually don't feel that way.
No, I like by Monday after like, after like 72 hours with my 4-year-old, I'm like, give me some adults.
I just want to go to work.
I need some adults. I've been getting yelled at.
I think it's like it's a choice thing. Like we choose not to feel that way, and we we do our best to reflect that to people that cross our path.
And I think too, like if you guys are both dicks and I was working in the same industry, I probably wouldn't look forward to coming to work. So like to your point, like because I worked in a job where I couldn't take it anymore, even though I loved the work that I was doing. I just couldn't take it anymore, So you can kind of see how you could have the best job in the world with the worst people and hate it, or you could have the worst job in the world with the best people and still hate it, but maybe love it a little bit more, So it's like those are like the two pieces, and I'm very grateful that I get to say both of those baskets are full. I like the people and I like my job, so it's pretty cool.
Well, I have, being a leader, all of us, I said it to you, Coach Dan, and Coach Kevin said it to both you guys this week, like. When I'm interested in you guys' vision. I'm interested in where you guys want to go in your life. Where do you think you are today? What do you want to improve? And if your world was perfect and you painted your canvas, what does it look like? Because I think it's important that, Kevin has an idea of how does Ben and how does Dan and how do the clients play roles in his life and make his life better. And I've asked Dan the same thing. I said, okay, like it's your world. And what role am I playing in your world? So, I'm trying to become a better leader. I'm trying to become a better friend. And I've had many moments where I haven't felt like I have been, And so I use it almost like I guess I don't really give a shit what people think about me after I'm dead and gone. But I do think there's still that an undertone of almost like wanting to leave a mark. It's like if I ever browbeat you guys, it's because it's almost like I have expectations for you. I like being surrounded by you. You guys are going to make my life better and easier and more fulfilling. So it's like, I kind of want to leave that mark, and I hope I every once in a while do that for you guys. Like I hope I do something where even if I'm a jerk, like I hope they realize what my intent was, and it's just, making, being a leader of men. And, the more you guys grow, it lifts our bottom up, and which means it pushes our top, right? So it's like my worst day 2 years ago is like I'll never go that low again. It's like, so I think you got to pull the bottom up to push the top, right? So it's like, again, I don't really care. Do you guys care about like the idea of a legacy?
I just think like you should try to live your best life, and whatever comes from that. I don't really like think about what's going to be left when I'm dead, right. But I do think like how can I like maximize this experience and maybe influence other people's lives. But to your point, like I don't think, and I think I can speak for Dan too. It's like you're not the kind of person that's going to say something, maybe it could come off as negative, but neither of us would ever think your intentions are to like make us feel bad.
I hope not.
You're just not. But I know people that would. I know a lot of people that would just say things just to try to get a rise out of me or try to make me feel shitty. I mean, go on the internet and look at like a really well-known Instagram account and read the comments, and there's people that are just like writing the absolute meanest things ever with no purpose behind it. But obviously, like the inability to take constructive criticism can be the difference between never succeeding in life. I mean, the amount of people, back to the the people that aren't conscious, that are like taking everything in defense and aren't willing to say like, okay, maybe I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and maybe he's just reminding me, like a friendly reminder. So instead of being defensive here, I should just be like, yeah, you're right. I didn't do that, and I should be doing that. So thank you for that. I think that's.
Coach, you want to leave a mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we could go a lot of different ways with that. I feel like. We're not responsible for how anyone else feels and perceives you. I truly believe in that. Personally, the way I live my life, I don't want to try to tell anybody else how to live their life, and I don't think they should do that to me. But the way I live, I'm going to treat everyone with respect, as long as they give me respect. I'm not going out of my way to look for people that aren't giving me respect. I'm going to be the bigger person. If someone wants to go there and be passive aggressive, this or that, and I also know what I love, what I appreciate people that people have taught me, coaches in the past and things of that nature. And if I were to go tomorrow, I would be very happy knowing that I tried to pass on training and mindset, positive mindset, and things of that nature to our youth and to some of the older folks that have sought us out for training services. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I want to leave an impact of, hey, I set an example on how to treat people kindly, how to lead by example, and not try to intentionally hurt anybody. And that's kind of where I'm at with that.
That's cool. I read that in the Tuesdays with Maury book. I refer to that one awesome because at the end of the book, as this guy's got Lou Gehrig's disease. I mean, imagine that. Like it's just creeping up to your throat and you're about to drown. Yeah. But he just said, he goes, if you want to get comfortable with dying, wait, how did he say it? He goes, if you want to be comfortable with death, to learn how to live, get comfortable with death. And exactly that. I think each day, I don't think it's such a bad thing to reflect on that deathbed scenario. Like if today is my last day, how'd I do?
I would say that's a really high level of consciousness is being okay with dying.
Absolutely.
I think like clinging on to life is dangerous. Because again, there's variables that can happen in any given moment. Nothing's guaranteed. So
you don't want to feel unfulfilled.
Yeah. So I think like to what you said, I think that was a really awesome point about just like, being a respectable person and showing respect and trying to give back and then not really like expecting anything along the way. No. Right.
Living with a sense of urgency. I mean, today could be the last day. Tomorrow could be 20 more years could be but live with a sense of urgency. All the people you love and all the things you do. You don't know when it's going to be your last time, so, do it all like you mean it.
Yeah. So if we're living consciously, we'll leave a mark, but we don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I think by nature, like, maybe you won't leave the mark of, like, Mark Zuckerberg. Maybe you won't be like the Facebook owner, or like some of these insanely revered people.
Ben Franklin shit,
but again, like I even think about it in the context of my kid. I think having a 4-year-old does give me a pretty strong level of anxiety when it comes to death. Like as much as I want to sit here and go, like if I go tomorrow, like I'm definitely grateful for the person that I am today, and like whatever it was that got me here, and whatever I was able to pass on. But when you have a 4-year-old that like. There's just that fear of like I want to be around to like show him things and teach him things that I wish I would have known, and obviously come death, like I don't get that opportunity anymore. So that fear is definitely still there for me. I would definitely rather not die tomorrow, but if I do, I'd like to think that people would think of me as a pretty good person.
That's cool.
Yeah, to kind of get on the potty mouth bandwagon, like I don't give a flying fuck if anyone doesn't think that. Being the person I needed when I was younger, teaching people how to lift weights is a bad way to live life. I could give a shit less, but that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm going to do. And, kind of like Kevin said, being able to pass on to the younger generations, his son in particular, things that maybe he wish he would have known when he was younger, going through life, navigating the waters. That's good stuff.
Yeah, accepting the things that you changing the things that you can, and accepting the things that you can't, and
yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think we're all three of us. I mean, I can attest. I pull energy from you guys when it comes to like the continuing ed.
We're pretty great.
We could eat.
We're pretty great.
But again, like we're like
our next episode's on ego.
Dan's never not listening to a podcast, trying to get he's probably the most knowledgeable strength coach I've ever had the opportunity to work alongside, and yet he's listening every day to people that are more knowledgeable than him to try to it's just that level of desire to get better, that level of respect for yourself as for whatever occupation that you do have. And it's just cool because, I think with that mentality, then again, passing that on to my kid, he should be way smarter than me way earlier if evolution has its way with them, so it's awesome. Again, I feel like I need to keep up with you guys, and I hope I do that the same for you. So
push pull, man. Push pull.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it was cool, man. I enjoyed the talk.
This is a really good talk. I feel like I just figured so many things out about my dumb brain.
You didn't.
I know. I forgot it all.
We'll tell you if you did or not.
I'm definitely not going to listen back. So
and before we sign off and prepare for our next podcast, I think it's important to mention that Coach Dan also has nice shorts on today.
Thank you.
They're Under Armour.
I don't know why you don't.
We're down 15 pounds since the meet. These shorts did not fit this well when I taught the kettlebell seminar a month ago, so we're pretty psyched about that.
They were like squat briefs.
I don't feel like
they were squat briefs.
I don't feel as slutty with them on anymore. Yet I still feel like I can, bring all the what does Gwen Stefani say? Bring my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard or something like that. I feel like my milkshake still brings.
When are you going to start
yard.
breaking out the shorts?
I don't have quads like you.
I don't
guys,
even know
dude.
if you have legs.
I'm all brain. I'm all brain, dude. I'm not. There's not a whole lot going on underneath.
That being said, if you need some eccentric squats in your life like Coach Ben, come see us at the Inflow Wellness Academy.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition. We'll guide you through supplementation. We'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out. And once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.